What's up, peeps? My guest today is hailing from across the pond over in the UK. I welcome Richard Moore, a startup consultant, investor, and sales coach. After putting in 60-hour work weeks in the city of London, Richard made the move to build something of his own, embarking on a journey of failures and successes. He then decided he would take that knowledge and help other businesses do the same. Richard, it's great to have you on, brother.
Man, it's so good. I've been a fan of your stuff for a while. It's awesome to be connected, and about time we did this too. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You bet. I'm really excited to share your story with everyone. I think you have a pretty cool journey. But before we get into that, if you'd love to just give the audience a little glimpse into who Richard is and what makes him tick.
Yeah, absolutely. So super short version is I worked 10 years in the city in corporate and I pivoted out about 7 or so years ago. And my focus now is helping sales teams to sell in an effective way. And from that stems things like communication and engagement. And of course, a couple of years ago, pivoting into LinkedIn to use that as well. I work a lot with brands and people and businesses getting real results there too. So it's all about how to interact and engage with human beings, and comes from on the back of a lot of stories and a lot of time on the pitch doing it for a very long time. And I'm really enjoying doing this right now. It's really good fun.
Yeah, and you can tell I've seen a lot of your content. Definitely check a lot of videos out. I know you got some stuff out on all kinds of social channels, and you can tell. Yeah. I think it's very easy. Anyone who's creating content their own, you can tell when someone's really into what they're doing and someone who's like doing something because maybe they have some ulterior motive, and you can tell you have a ton of passion for it. I know I'm part of your Facebook group. You run that very well. Yeah. So yeah, no doubt, no questioning your commitment for sure.
Well, someone once asked me, they said, look, I mean, if you won the lottery, would you still do it? I'm like, oh my God, I would so be there still doing it every day. I love it. And that community thing really matters to me. Yeah, the Facebook group is a great example of wanting just to be around great people. It really matters to me.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today? I know I peppered on it a little bit in the beginning. You were working 12-hour days, and a lot of people out here definitely listening in are on the grind. And you made a change, which was pretty awesome. When a lot of people wouldn't do that. So tell us, give us a little glimpse into that background and your journey, and then how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, and I'm glad it's resonated with a lot of people. And over the years since, it's been something where people have said, look, I'm in corporate too. And everyone agrees it's a fear-based thing. It's like, how are you going to get over this and go for it, or are you not? And I've always knew I was going to do my own thing at some point. It was always in there. I always wanted to. But I recognized the value of getting on the pitch, being part of a number of businesses and learning my trade as well. And I was well looked after for 10 years. But you're absolutely right. I got to a point where I was working 60, on occasion, 80-hour weeks. Sometimes I'd be calling my wife and saying, I'm just going to get a hotel and stay here. And just then get up earlier in the morning. And I was working like this very, very hard work in the kind of role I had. And as with a lot of these things, you have a kind of a moment where something happens. And the moment took place across about a year. I lost some very close personal relatives. So my grandmother passed away and she was very close to me. And then a couple of months later, my first daughter was born, who was born without an esophagus. So she was like straight to surgery. And then for the rest of that year, she was in surgery a lot. So she was like passing out on us and like not doing well a lot. And I was literally commuting from a hospital ward for 3 months. And then by the end of the year, my mum passed away, and I'd only had my mum raise me since I was 11. So I had an intense amount of very hard stuff hitting me. And my amazing wife, who was there all along, the following year, as all of the kind of the aftershocks hit me, and I started really imploding and having a massive issue with everything, was like, look, you're talented enough. Why don't you go and start your own thing? Because there's one thing you're always confident on is that you can close deals and close business. So you can survive. So now's your time. Go for it. And and some people said I was irresponsible. They were saying things like, look, you've got a wife and a child. Because she was a lawyer, so she had a good wage and that, but she was no longer earning. And it's like, you've got mortgages, you've got cars, you've got all these bills, and you're going to start your own thing. Like, that's genuinely not cool. But I knew I was like, I have to do it, because my heart wasn't really in working so hard for something else, and when it wasn't mine. And it's not that I've had a problem with working for other people, but I always wanted to build something of my own. And so I just felt like, you know what, this is the right time, because I'm not seeing enough of this daughter, who's a very precious thing. I'm not seeing enough of my wife either. And this just can't be it, because I just ticked over 30 years old. I'm like, what, is this another 30 years of this? Come on. So I was like, it's time to switch, and just armed only with the fact that there was no option other than making it work, because there was people relying on me, then I had to go. And it was no like, oh, I hope it works out. It's just, no, it's going to work out. Force it, steer into success kind of thing. And it's been exhilarating, Frank. Honestly, these last 7 years really have been my therapy in a way. But I've really grown into it and enjoyed the process. And the kind of the number one thing I would tell myself at that moment would be, you're doing the right thing by doing the thing you're really into. And like, as long as you're keen on it and you're into it, you will be fine. Because as you rightly said at the start, like, if you can't get enough of something, it tends to show through, and that's resulted in some really good wins. It's been really hard at times, but and it's been kind of ugly at the start, but just by fighting and wanting the results, it's been exhilarating as well.
Yeah, so I'd like to, maybe pick apart a few things in there, because I feel like definitely for the audience tuning in, and maybe taking some notes on what you've done. So what I see is you were pretty comfortable, making money, guaranteed money coming in. You were working your butt off, but yeah, I mean, that comes with it, and I get it. But you made that decision. You experienced, not only the loss of your mother, but also your daughter going through, which I have an 8-year-old daughter. I can't imagine, what you were going through at that time.
Same age, yeah.
So you like, it's like out of the ashes. It's like, boom, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen. So it was kind of like the bad things happened, but there was a springboard for you to move on to something else, and maybe to ignite sort of a fire in you.
I think so. And what was really important was at that moment, because I was raised by a single mum, at that moment, I became the apex. It was like, there's no one above you now. You're now the grown up, and now you're the responsible parent as well. So like, success is not just making cash. Success is being the grown up that can achieve all of these things at the same time. And you're absolutely right. It was like, I was doing well. The company looked after me. I had the most spectacular managing director who was totally understanding. But I was like, now's the time. Come on, let's go and grow a bit. And in a way, for some people, they said it's the worst time to do it. For me, it was like, it's the right time to do it, because nothing can get worse. Let's move from here. And I would never change a thing.
Agree. And I feel like what you've done, and I talk about this, quite often, especially with folks that I work with, is you made a bet on yourself. So for me, I say it all the time, like, I've been betting on myself for years, and hey, I'm a good bet. I've always paid off. And I think knowing, okay, you're going to make this move. Is it, to some people like, whoa, you're crazy. You're going to put yourself in a weird financial situation. What if it doesn't work out? Well, what if it does? What if I don't do it, and I work 60 hours a week for the next 30 years, and I have all this regret that I shoulda, coulda, woulda? I think you had the drive to do it, but also knowing that what the consequences of the failure were. If I fail, this is what's going to happen. So I think that is like propelling you constantly forward. And when you feel like quitting, it's like, I can't quit because of this.
Exactly.
Not my family.
That's the thing. And understanding, especially from a sales role, my first job was sales, and I've been in that space all my career. And it's like, you understand by this time that it's going to be up and down. That's part of it. And the one tool you've got is just to be able to keep going through the walls. And and yeah, you're right. Like, at no point was I allowed the dialogue, oh, but what if it doesn't work? Because if I allowed that to creep in, it meant I wasn't focusing enough. And I allowed other people to say, well, I just think it's a bit irresponsible, and things like that. I was like, that's fine if you want to say that. But what really matters is what I say to myself. And I know that's touchy-feely, but there's this inner dialogue. And I've been in this bubble all the way through, and knowing that I've got this, and even if I haven't, I will force my way through. And you know, there's sometimes it's like you need to find money out of thin air in the next day because of payroll. But you just, you know, it's romantic, man. It's fun, and that's part of the challenge. And if you read any biography of anyone successful, there's those moments constantly punctuating it, isn't there?
Yeah. And the fact that you said earlier that, you know, you kind of had this, you knew that you wanted to do this. It was always there. And then you made the move. I feel like, and that's what some people need to realize, that the staff that have the self-awareness that, okay, maybe people work 60 hours, you know, they're working, you know, they're not the number one at the company, but they have a position where they have freedom. They're making good money. They love what they do. And there's plenty of people out there that are like, I'm comfortable here and I love doing this. And I feel like this is really where I belong to be. Then there's other people like me, like you, that had that drive. That's like, yeah, this is where I'm at, but this isn't where I want to be. And you knew that, which is great. And I think people really have to have that self-aware. You don't need to own a company if that's not what you want to do. If you're driven to own, be your boss.
And I think there's a really good point in there. There's a really good point in there, which is that people need that self-awareness to really audit if they are in a role in order to generate an amount of money in their bank account at the end of the month that can perpetuate them being in that role and living in that house. If that's the reason, then it's like you're like, what a waste of probably a great talent, because you're just doing it for the money is crazy. Because the truth, and I experienced it firsthand, the truth is it's surprising what you can live off. You can live off a tremendously low amount of money if you really need to at the start, and get by. And also, you know, that if you have the right kind of talent, you know what you can do, learning the right way of, especially working online, for instance, learning the way to interface with people and just being a decent human, you can start getting money coming to you right away, and that problem solved. But then you're in this wonderful space of a bit more freedom to think and take it in your way and really design your week as well. I do believe that, you know, it's worth exploring it, because the regret would be too big otherwise.
Yeah. So I'd like to kind of unpack a little bit about, so you got 16 years or so working in experience in sales. You work with folks where a lot of them are selling some kind of high ticket items that really make a difference in their revenue and how you help them impact that. You've got a couple courses. I know you got the Monetize You, the Basics of Sales course. You got a LinkedIn course. You do these events, global events, the Entrepreneur Business Live events. You do the live Q&A. So you're literally exposed to not only the clientele and the people that are hiring you to help them get to where they want to be and achieve what they want, but you're also involved in all these other pockets and phases and interacting with people. So taking a look at that, your experience, what's a piece of advice that you would give to those tuning in? It's like, this is Richard's piece of advice, and take it or leave it, but they should be listening to you.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out, if you look at all these things you've mentioned, is that it's very easy to contribute to a conversation. Let's take the online world, for instance, to show up on posts and comment and things, and one should do that. That's good to be part of the community. But the advice I'm really giving here is that you should host the parties. You really should. In the same way, like all of those Entrepreneur Business Live events, are like, I think there's 26 we've had across the planet, all raising money for charity. It was like $5,000 last year we raised for local charities through these things. Every one of those is like, it's like, why am I going to other people's events? Why don't I show up for them? Why am I just going to write comments on other people's content? Why don't I produce content? Why just be on others' wonderful shows like yours? Why not curate your own as well? And I think it's so important to host parties against the very tight niche or topic within which you reside. Because what you're doing is you're saying, hey, come over here, very small slither of audience who actually matter, and check out what I have to say. And it's really important that, and people talk about like building your tribe and things like that, and that's what it's about. It doesn't mean you can't show up for other people, and you really should, but the really big advice is you should be hosting parties, in metaphorically speaking. Start the conversations, be the reason, you know, almost like, you know, every Monday or whatever it is, my wife and I lately, it's like, right, are you ready? The Last Dance is on. Let's go. And like last night, we were a bit late to it last night. We're like, next 2 episodes, we're showing up every single week for that show, and people will start doing the same for you as well, because it's compelling to that small set of people that are into it. And so important to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you make a great point that I think people look at metrics in a certain way and say, well, I started my podcast, but only, consistently every week, 15 people download it. Well, those 15 people are showing up for you. That's what you want. You don't, if 100 people show up, but only 15 want to be there for you, focus on the 15. So I think you're correct there, and kind of that's attract the people that want to be attracted to you, and you guys can vibe off each other. I think that's really
and one superpower is consistency. It really is, because it doesn't have to be all that, but what happens is across time, people start hearing about you again and again. And the 15, even if it doesn't increase by that much, it's that consistency that people start hearing about it more and more. The events I run, they're not huge. They're not massive at all. The bigger ones are like 50 or 60 people. That's it. And we were going to have Miami. It was going to be 180. But normally they're like 30 people. They're not huge. But by broadcasting it enough, those little events have like, you can't measure it one for one in terms of metrics. And there was no data proving it. But over time, you feel yourself being lifted by these things. It just makes sense to be consistent as well.
So on the flip side of that, love the fact of the advice you'd give. What's a piece, something that you see a lot, again, looking at all the people you work with, what's something that they're doing wrong where you're like, hey, I noticed this and this is what I wish I could change?
Yeah, I mean, you and I both inhabit to a degree, because we obviously have jobs as well. We do, but we inhabit the LinkedIn world and the content creation world too. It's not actually our full-time jobs. People need to understand. We have the others. We work with companies and so on. One thing I do find, if we look at that space, is that there's this big amount of finger crossing and hope in strategy, where people say, well, if I produce content, and that might be just a share of someone else's article, and just post it and run, maybe one day I'll just go viral and everything will work out, right? And the truth is that we actually, even the newbies actually deep down know what they really need to do. And it's the same as the offline world. It's you need to show up for the people and for the audience that would show up for you. I've said this recently, if I want to move house and ask my friends to help me, they'll only say, yeah, sure, no problem, if I've invested in them in the past, right? If I've shown up for them, helped them in whatever way, hung out, be a good guy and so on. And it's the same with content. You've got to spend the majority of your time with the community, like get amongst them, and doing shows like this this isn't about money. This is about just making sure that I'm front and center and on people's radar, and also validates our connection as well. We have a good time hanging out. And that all means that, like, by spending the majority of the time with the people, then that props up the more commercial things you're trying to achieve.
What keeps you going? You've been doing this now for almost 8 years. So you've kind of, like you said, you had failures, you've had successes. I think you've taken risk for sure. But what is it? What is it that your feet hit the ground in the morning and you're like, I'm ready. I want to keep going.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, I've firstly got to remember, this is not someone else's world I'm living in. This is not someone else's job description that I've decided to take. This is all by design, right? So, one of the first things I got rid of was that feeling on a Sunday of like, well, man, I've got Monday coming up. I want Monday to be the best day of the week. How do I get into a Monday wanting to do it? Designing the week so you want to do it means you run at it. But also, if you achieve a level of success, so that, and by success, what I mean is the ability to be flexible, to spend time with family, the ability to have enough money that the family is happy and has experiences and so on. It allows you to experience and test things that might fail. And what that really means is, like, if you get a robust business running, you can have fun with being creative and being innovative. And you don't have to be safe with literally everything you do. So, the Entrepreneur Business Live thing, after the first event in London back in the summer of 2018, I was like, let's do New York. Come on, let's go global. Let's try them all over, because if you don't go big, no one will think you're serious, right? So, and I remember saying to Anna, who was helping with operations at the time, I was like, we can screw the whole thing up. No problem at all. I'm financing the whole thing. If no one shows up, do you know what? I get to go to New York. It doesn't matter. Like, let's have fun with it, and allowing yourself the freedom to go play. And look, if you think about it, like, it's 4:30 on a Wednesday afternoon, and I'm doing this with you rather than sitting in my office, in an office doing other things. Being able to have the freedom to try things that might go well or might not work at all means it keeps me going, because it's like, well, what's the new thing I could try today? As long as I maintain the business I'm doing, what are the fun new things I could explore? And that's awesome. Like that means I can try new experiences, which I should be doing, because, you know, I'm lucky enough to have the life I've got.
Love the fact that you touch on that kind of your version of success too, because I feel like, so me, I started my first company 17 years ago. And when I did that, and I was a lot younger, I'm 42 now, but my version, what success was to me was, models and bottles and boats and jets and fashion and all the stuff you see, today on social media. When I was 26 years old, the 26-year-old version of me today, I would have been glamorized by all the stuff you see on social media. We see it everywhere. And it's like, you got to have a jet to be successful and all this stuff. And I feel like that's what, people's version of success gets diluted and gets kind of cloudy. I think back then I thought that's what success meant. Oh, I got money in my bank account. I could buy a watch, have a fancy car. And then you fast forward to today, and success means totally different to me. It's way different. And it's good to hear and of course, now the fact that you've experienced a lot in your life, you went through some traumatic times, you built the business, had risk, you work with other people, you have a responsibility too. And you defining success today, again, I think is really important for people to see other people's perspective on success.
I agree, and I think the holy grail in the definition of success, and the main thing, as you point out there, is you understand, you define your own success, not trying to emulate others. But the holy grail, in my opinion, is flexibility. I've not missed the nativity play of either of my daughters, and I sit in there and I'm like, it is mostly the dads that are absent. It's like, where are you? That's the point. It's like, why am I having children otherwise? And being able to just have those other things I can do. And tomorrow, for half the day, I'm homeschooling my children because they're off on lockdown. And rather than being, well, I can't because of work, right? And, it's good to be able to be flexible. And sure, some nights I have to offset it. But let's be clear, I still like nice stuff. It's just, it's not front and center. And I was the same, although I was corporate when I was 26 or so, it was a lot of I remember the company had a Porsche 911. They're the best sales. Having a Porsche for the weekend was ridiculous. It was really good fun. And all that was awesome. But it's more, that's kind of, I think what happens is you do it to be flashy when you're that age, don't you? Whereas now, because I'm 40 this year, so I'm still in my mid-30s, Frank. But what I do think is that it's nice to have those nice things, but I don't have to flex them because I only would get them for me. So the first time I bought my first nice-ish watch, it was $3,500, and I'm like, that's a really nice purchase. But I wasn't showing people. It was I want that for me, and I bought it because it meant something, and I didn't allow I'm very kind of, I make myself reward-based culture, so I only allowed myself to buy it when I had achieved certain thing. And that was it was I don't have to flash the thing. Knowing I've got it on is what matters to me, and I don't care if people think I'm successful or not. It's my feeling of it. That's what matters.
Cool. I love that reward-based culture. I wrote that down. I respect that.
Big time for everything.
So my favorite part of the show, and I can't wait to hear your answer, is where are we going? Let's take a look into Richard's crystal ball and give us a glimpse into the future. I don't know, 5-10 years out. Where are we going? Where are we going to be?
I miss deeply having a team around me. I have a team, sure, and shout out to them all. That's amazing. But a physical bricks and mortar building with people in it, I miss it so much. It's been several years from that now, and I've always been a team manager and people person and grown people and things like that. And I'm headed aggressively towards that at the moment. The events, for instance, was originally going to be commercial, but it's a nice, fun thing we do for. But what's happened since the end of last year is I've worked a bit more on as an agent or an agency to provide not just kind of consultancy, but actually to help people with content using the team and actually produce meaningful results for them, because I understand sales, I understand the content and the online space as well. So it's been really fun to build. And one of the big goals I've got is, and I have it in front of me because every day I write out what I'm all like, the rewards and the goals I'm up for. And one of the main ones is to have a 50 people plus successful business. 50 people for me isn't just for the sake of it because of the number, but 50 people means I've got an ecosystem, and that requires more than just me to be great. And that means I'm surrounding myself with other great people, and I'm relishing all the challenges that would bring, because I really, really want to get back into that. I've done that so many times. I've done P&L, I've been a director at businesses and things, and I'm looking forward to building something of my own in that respect. So in the next few years, I'll be going in that direction, and I cannot wait. And lockdown is going to slow me somewhat, but it's all good. It's only temporary.
Yeah, and I like the fact that, I do that too. You write down, where you want to be. I think people aspire to do something like, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to buy this, or I'm going to have that. And it's like, okay, well, what are you doing to get there? Like, what are you doing today that's going to get you there in 12, 24, 36 months? So I like the, manifesting the thoughts and putting that into
that's so important, because I'm like the guy for action. I'm absolutely abhor the idea of and all love to people who do vision boards and so on. But I'm not about hoping by thinking and dreaming. I'm all about action to make it happen. So I have those things written out again and again every single day. And then the tasks, I have to do that audit. Like, how does this task map to one of those 10x goals? How does it get me there? And if it's not, then why am I choosing to do that task? It's really important to ask yourself, why are you doing certain things? And if it doesn't relate to where you're trying to go, ask yourself strong questions like, should I really be doing that thing?
True. Great advice. So thanks for bringing some knowledge and definitely love it. I think you put some great information out there to the audience. Where do they find you? Where they want to learn more about you? Where are we sending them?
Well, there's why don't we hook up on LinkedIn? It makes sense. So I'm LinkedIn / Richard James Moore, and or you can go to therichardmoore.com. Sadly, Richard Moore was taken. I couldn't buy it off the guy. He would not let it go. So I had the Richard Moore. So get that bit right. And happy to engage with people and help out wherever possible. But it's just great to make new connections. You never know who's next.